Sail ofizialeko, arratsaldeon, Sail ofizialeko Club Sandwich filma ikusi berri dugu eta orain egingo dugu bere prentsaurrekoa. Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. We're going to commence the press conference which corresponds to the film Club Sandwich of the official section. And we have with us the director, Fernando Emke, the actors and actresses, María René Prudencio, Lucio Jiménez Cacho, Daniel Reino Romero, the producers, Cristian Valdeniev and Jaime Berramos, the artistic director, Alejandro Caballero, and the director, Mariana Rodriguez. And as they are eagerly awaiting your questions, this is the first question in the front row. Yes. Hi, good afternoon. I would like to ask you about the timing in each of the scenes, the rhythm. How did you shoot? Take your time? Is that what you're saying to each of the actors? Take your time? Or was everything very, very planned and rehearsed? Everything was like, and he gave us plenty of time. And he said, when we felt, so it would look much more natural. So there was no hurry at all. So therefore, he said, yeah, take your time. It was like calculated improvisation. It was all millimetrically planned. But in those brief spaces, there was freedom. But yes, Fernando is a director that has quite clear in his mind each gesture that should be portrayed on the screen. The working with the actors, I worked with them, the casting directors in our films, they wait and they go crazy too much. And all of a sudden they say, well, they don't know what they want, and sometimes we might happen. We want to surprise ourselves. We don't know what's happening with the casting. We want to find the essence of the character in the actors or non-actors, and that's what we achieved with María René, Lucio, and with Danae. The most beautiful thing of a casting for me is to surprise you. That is, say, with the guy, to not have any preconceived idea of what you believe the character should be like. And in this case, they surprised me very much. The relationship that existed between María René and Lucio was spectacular. When we got them both together, it was marvelous. And the same with Danae. That's her personality, her freshness was really something captivated us very much. And we improvised. Yes, we did improvise a little. Yes, we like to have the set all under control and the scene very controlled. We know where it's going, but they shouldn't get so stuck to the dialogues or whatever the dialogues say. I prefer them to take it on and make it their own. And we read the script once, and then they don't have access to the script. We read it before the scene, and they say it with their own words or however they feel it at that moment. Questions, please? Yes. Hi, I'd like to know how you really believe your mother and son. It's not easy to achieve. Did you do anything specifically in order to transmit this? An operation, or what did you do? Well, the film was filmed on the beach. We spent 2 months at 38 degrees centigrade next to this at the beach. So therefore, I think it was the delight of the company which built that intimacy that we may have portrayed. Fernando helped us. He took us to tell him how to drive a car. He took us to a concert. So if it was a not mental or rational construction of coexistence together, and Lucio's a lovely kid, and so it's very easy to love him. She taught me how to drive a car, so that was fun. So therefore, it wasn't a forced relationship, if you catch what I mean. And so therefore, at a concert, we went to a concert here, and as we were living where we were shooting, well, we were all close together. And so therefore, so it was really good. What I like very much about the film is how you generated that relationship between mother and son, because there was a lot of generosity on behalf of Maria René and a lot of intelligence to not fall into the cliche of being a mother. They really became friends, and they spent the whole film creating this relationship, but it was very natural, I think, and none of the two felt obliged in any way. And we did do a few tricks. Shall we say, they arrived earlier, and we filmed various scenes of those, and then Danae turns up. So we wanted it to be a bit, we wanted that almost a real intrusion as she turns up. So that's the way it worked. And that's it, and they played a lot. The joke on the set and the film was to play, to enjoy yourself, have a good time. When Lucio, when we asked him to make the film, he wasn't too interested. I went to see it, and I talked to him, and then I said, well, listen, in this film, you're coming along to have a good time, don't worry. We'll get in charge of everything. If everything goes wrong, don't you worry at all. You come along to have a good time and to play. And that's the way he took it, and I think he enjoyed himself very much. He had a lot of fun. Hi, I want to ask the director about just what you've said, the jokes and the end of the film. It plays with a sense of humor, and we could talk about that, could you? Maria René, you're very young. You probably have never felt anything of what you transmit and portray in the film. But how did you feel? How did you portray that woman who sees in front of her face how her son goes from being a child and turns into a man or a young man? I'm not that young. I use very good moisturizing lotion, but no, yes, I would have the age to have a son, the truth be said. I've got an 8-year-old daughter who is entering into an accelerated puberty, and so with kids, you're winning and losing every day. They grow so quickly that you're almost constantly saying farewell to them. So therefore, it's a familiar feeling for me. You're always seeing that they're going to leave. There's almost a premature nostalgia in maternity. So that helped me very much to construct my character. And Lucio is at an age where each week that goes by, I saw him change. In 1 year, he's a man now. So therefore, to see him and understand his performance and see how he developed on his own to become a very nice and sociable person, it was like seeing a child changing and turning into something else. It was all very organic. We didn't have to do any great effort of placing it on the scene and transmitting that. You did grow. You did grow. Yes. When I came back from the film, my mother received me at the airport. She said, Lucio, where's Lucio? And all my friends at school said that I had changed quite a lot in 2 months. I don't know. That was cool. Sorry, we can't hear the question. Oh, the sense of humor. Oh, yes. They came along. They're not. It's not that funny on the script. In the script, they provided the sense of humor. The sense of humor is quite subtle, and I liked. And they basically made that sense of humor come alive. It's very simple. It's very subtle. You're not seeking to make an obvious joke and to make it a gag. No, it's quite subtle, and it worked on the set. And it has to do with the tension of the scene. That is to say, the situation that occurs as it breaks, all of a sudden, that's when the humor or the joke arises. There's a tension throughout the entire film. I like it very much. There's a latent sexual tension is always present throughout the film. And when it starts to explode is when all of a sudden you start to laugh. It's all contained, highly contained. Hi, how are you? I come from Mexico. I want to congratulate you very much. I see this film, which is closely linked to Temporada de Potosí and Lake Tahoe, and it talks about going from puberty to adolescence. It's very painful sometimes, and you make us laugh here. I would like to know why that concern in Fernando to tell this type of story. Well, it started with the story of an adolescent, the sexual awakening of an adolescent. And as we wrote the script, I discovered that I'm not too sure the most interesting, but the main character who has the greatest conflict is that of the mother. And I followed and I listened to the voice of the mother, and that's how I followed down the line. It wasn't so much an adolescent a film of teenagers, but more focused upon the mother and her journey. So therefore, I went towards the mother, and I see the mother like an adolescent. Like it's a question of maturing, but with someone who's 30-something years old. I don't know. I like to work with adult characters. Temporada de Patos and Lake Tahoe, for example, it's a universe which is like Charlie Brown, where the adult characters make a lot of noise, but you never see them. And Parla Malkovich, which in Lake Tahoe and in Temporada says, you've got something with adults. You see them like the stereotype of mothers and fathers. And I see my friends, men and women with their children, they can say, hey, okay, these are characters. So therefore, there's a very big Peter Pan complex to be like a child, and now I'm trying to understand adults and to understand myself more also. I'm part of that story as well. I've got children, and it's the same fear and that same concern. Now it's with the mother, but I think all of us have that fear of, like Maria Renesca, to lose, and not only with teenagers, with teenagers you start to lose them because they start to go away from you, little by little. Hi, I come from Colombia. I love Mexican cinema and contemporary Mexican cinema. I'd like to treat the issue of the father. The father is something not only Mexican but also Latin American, and he says, no, there's no father. And she says, well, then that's a cool father-like bracelet you've got. How did you reflect upon the absence of the father within the film from the scriptwriter and the director? Congratulations too, by the way. Thank you. I was very interested in the character of the mother, for not to be a father, and it could be a mother who would dedicate herself completely to the bringing up of her son and to generate a universe that they were like mother and son and best of friends. That was very important for me. Up until there, I didn't give any more meaning to that of the lack of the father. Well, de padre, it's an expression. When something's really cool, you say, está padre. It's like father. It's an expression, which means it's cool. Or you can say it's all cool using it's all mother. You know what I'm saying? It's an expression literally translated. Hi, I come from Mexico as well. Congratulations to everyone. It's a film. A question for Fernando and for Eugenio Caballero. Eugenio, you've made very complex art productions, like the Laberinto del Fauno, where everything's quite excessive. How did you come with Fernando to determine the different spaces here? Because apparently there's a second level to them, but in the films of Fernando, space is a vital issue. How did you construct the art design? Well, a lot was done in the pre-production. It was very important. I wanted to go back to Mexico and make films with people who I love and I admire. And Fernando, one of the first on the list. And this project emerged, and they invited me. I was looking for the area and the space, the location. Fernando traveled all over, practically all in the south of Mexico to find a location. It was easy to find a space. It wasn't that easy. We found a place and gave us a good base, but a good foundation. But things that were very important, seemed important initially, in the transmitting of feelings, we needed exuberance. We had to fix up all of the garden. Many of the things that you see there were changed. The room, for example, is a room which we broke down a few walls. The restaurant didn't exist. We had to set it up. And the idea of it was everything was there, but you couldn't, we didn't want you to notice it, but it helped to tell the story as regards to how Fernando likes to tell those stories. And he's very meticulous, by the way. And a lot of work that we carried out which was also important, because at the end, these large films that you make, sometimes you don't have so much, you try to have more control, but there's so many decisions that have to be made that you can't really be very precise in everything. And what we're trying to do here is that the color be important, and have a palette of colors, which are very important. We had a lot of debate with Maria, the DOP, Maria Seco, as regards to how we wanted to see the film, to transmit and to back up and support what was going to happen with the work of the actors later on. So therefore, there were many months of dialogues, traveling together and talking, and at the end of the day, and it fits very well into the film, and that was the objective of all of this. For me, it was an enormous experience to go back and make films in Mexico, which I hadn't done for a long time, and to also generate within the way in which Fernando tells stories, to generate a visual language with Maria and with Fernando, contributing each and every one of us had to contribute. What was the other part of the question? It was for Fernando. Yes, in films, there's always a moment in which you've got to do it let's do it in black and white, because it's very difficult for me. Color is very difficult for me to find harmony in color. Very, very difficult. So therefore, I knew that Eugenio could help us in finding that harmony. Eugenio, he's an art director who has done enormous big films, the Laberinto del Fauno, the Impossible films that are enormous films. So it was crazy for him to be in a film which was so small, but it was very important for me, the color, the palette of colors, the geometric shapes, and I knew that Eugenio could find that he was going to listen to me with that obsession by color. Perhaps I'm not too good to use color, but I like there to be harmony, and we found it with Eugenio. He's a person who works, he gets highly involved, because that's his department. That's why we did in the wardrobe, for example. So therefore, the colors of the characters, how depending upon their mood, what they wear, and so therefore, and that I like very much, because it's very subtle. It's not that obvious. It's very subtle, and you do see that in a film it does change. We filmed the entire film in Puerto Escondido, in that room. The room is a very small room, so therefore, all of a sudden, we were going, we should have filmed somewhere else, but we were very interested in that the skin can be seen with the color of the sea, for example. When they were playing cards, Maria René realizes that the sea, her hair is all mixed up because she'd been to the beach, and that gives a lot of magic, or provides a lot of magic to the actors. So we ended up filming there as well. Several weeks, wasn't it? 5 weeks, I think, yeah. And we all slept there. We slept in the hotel. We lived together on a daily, where there was no way of separating us. Hi, over here. You've mentioned 2 words, which are subtlety and containment, and that's these are the things that best define your cinematographic language. In your first film, you already referred to Jarmusch or Kaurismäki as references of yours. Why to choose this style, and how do you think it's matured in your cinema? And I also want to ask you, and this could be answered by the producer as well, the current situation of Mexican cinema industry, I think, is quite powerful, and things are. It's a lot of production is being made. The amount of films that exist now are great. In this film festival, there are a lot of films from Mexico. So therefore, how do you assess the current situation in the Mexican film industry as regards to containment? It came out easy and very on its own. In the script, there were very festive sort of, in the taxi, for example, scenes that were a lot of fun, and all of a sudden we shot it and it looked very funny, and I saw it and I said, no, we've got to do it again, and we had to shoot it again. And we said, what do? Don't say anything. We keep quiet and don't say anything. And that's how things emerge. I like that holding back. For example, there's a conflict. There's a tension, sexual tension. There's something in the story. It's not as if it's a tension or a subtlety that doesn't say anything. There's tension there in which we believe, and we believe in it, and there's a conflict, and we trust it. There's someone who's a very big accomplice of that holding back and containment and rhythm is Mariana Rodriguez. She was in Temporada de Patos and in Lake Tahoe as well, and now in Club Sandwich, and she has been an indispensable person who is required to maintain that rhythm and that search for that rhythm and pace in the film. Temporada de Patos, for example, duck season, the first cut was a disaster. The truth is, Mariana saved it at the end of the day, and it's a very important part of the process to find that pace and rhythm and that timing. But there aren't too many shots. It looks very simple. There aren't too many shots, but to find that rhythm is very difficult. And we're also very, very obsessive, almost. There are 3 or 4 frames in the editing. I'll say, let's take about 3 or 4 or 5 frames out of which we spent hours thinking about this and how we did the cut in the editing room. We enjoyed it very much, but we also suffered as well. I think films are made and designed all the way through the editing room, and that's where the editor destroys them. Yes. Fernando, do you... Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Production. Yes, in Mexico we're producing more than what we've produced in the history of Mexico, which is about 60 or 70 films a year. There's a very well-known financing mechanism, which is Article 226 of the law, the tax law, which is 6 years old, and that means that the production in Mexico has grown a lot. We produced 15 years ago 10 films a year. So 10 to 70 is a gigantic leap and growth. So therefore, I think it is the most important moment of Mexican cinema since almost 50 years ago. So therefore, as we're a large country with enormous amount of talent and quite varied talent, a range of talent, we're seeing a great variety of films. This weekend, this is a very big film which went very well in Mexico, a commercial film. And there are films like Club Sandwich that are completely different. Heli, things have worked very well. All types of cinema is being made in Mexico. What this reflects is that there's an industry which is like it's never been before. So therefore, it's not that strange that there's a great diversity of the type of projects that are emerging in our film industry. We're having some issues with distribution, which is the most complex side of things. We've done a lot of work in the production and in financing mechanisms for production. Where we're having problems is exhibiting the films, because we got a couple of TV channels, which are cinema, which is a very strong duopoly, and with the invasion of American cinema, let's say last year, 91% of the tickets that were sold in the cinema, 91% were sold to American films. That's probably higher than any other figure in the rest of the world, undoubtedly, than in Europe. At the same time that we're producing an incredible amount of films and a quality of films which is quite varied, we're having problems in trying to show them and screen them in Mexico. So therefore, that's what we're focusing upon, and we hope that the government will help get involved to help us, and there are many ways of doing this, to work more in the distribution side of things for our projects in Mexico. Because if you look at all the film festivals in the world, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 interesting Mexican films are participating. And now it's difficult to screen them in our cinema theaters in Mexico. It's a pity, but undoubtedly we're going through a very good moment at present. Hi, Fernando, I want to ask you whether you consider in Latin America, there's a division in Mexican cinema between one side, which would be much more relaxed, led by you and Adama Escalante and Bigas, and a trend which is more towards industrial type cinema. I don't know whether you believe in that perception or not, or you agree with it. Well, I think it's a question of rhythm. These are films that are a bit slower, shall we say. But Carlos's films or Atmat and my films are films which are completely different. We couldn't stereotype it into art Mexican cinema. And there's art and commercial. There's good. I don't think it's art or commercial. I think it's good cinema and bad cinema. And I think in Mexico right now we've got films that are commercially working very well. And what we've got in Mexico is a great diversity, and that's one of the most beautiful things that an industry can have. We're trying to build an industry, and that diversity is very, very good, I believe. For me, I celebrate the box office, that say that the films make it good at the box office and people start to watch Mexican cinema with success, as I was saying, in the box office. That's all well and good. But what we want is for there to be more areas, more spaces, and more cinema theaters that say sometimes big box office hits. Those and the Hollywood films, the smaller films like ours, will have a very little chance and very little projection, and that's what we're trying to seek to resolve. So it's all more equitable and it all balances out better. Hi, good afternoon. Congratulations. Before I ask, I think it's a jewel of a film. Fernando, tell me about the script. When you're preparing and writing, do you have an idea of producing a small film, or was it back to front? Was the story first, or then you suited the planning? Because what draws my attention is that it's a film. It focuses more on what's human things. There aren't too many, a lot of artificial things. Everything is on the tripod and the cameras. That's the first question. The second question is for Lucio and Danai. Obviously, you're very young, and when you receive the script, that there's things that you've got to expose, a lot of exposure as actors that you've got to carry out. What did you feel, and how did you confront that great trust with Fernando to be able to portray your roles? At the beginning, I read the script with Fernando, who came home, and I said, no, I don't want to make this film. But then slowly but surely I got to know him a bit more, and with Maria René, and he started to introduce me to the crew, and then my parents told me how Fernando worked, and he works with a lot of people that are non-actors, and he doesn't expose them to situations which are too complicated. Well, they are complicated, but it's more like feelings. It's not like yes, he started to gain my confidence and trust, and at the end, I don't know how I was going to do it, but I trusted him and I trusted the crew, and so therefore, let's go ahead, and there's nothing to lose, I thought. I think that it's all the contrary, because I had been an actress in shorts when I was a little girl, and I'd done 4 shorts of sexual arousal. And that seems to be a subject matter that they like, so therefore my mother, when I told her, I said, no, it's a film of sexual awakening, and my mother said, yeah, I've been living your sexual awakening since you were 10 years old on the screen. So therefore it wasn't a shock for me. I had seen Fernando's work, and I knew that he was very subtle, and it was very fascinated by it. So if it had been another director, perhaps I would have asked myself more other things. Was how much is he going to expose me? But from the outset, it was quite clear that it was a film. It wasn't that kind of film. So therefore, in fact, those types of scenes were the simplest ones. That wasn't that complicated, as you may well think. And the small stories, more the human side of things. Sorry, we can't hear the question now from the audience. He doesn't have a microphone. whether you addressed it initially on the script, you wanted to make a small film, production-wise, or was it vice versa? Once you had the story, the planning was much simpler, quote unquote. No, I'm very interested in the characters. That's what most interests me, and the film suits itself slowly but surely to the situation. And they're generally smaller because it's much more concentrated on the characters. It's very difficult for me to, I don't know, too many locations, too much moving around, extras. No, I like to be with them, to see them, just see them in front of me. I have nothing against camera movement, but I like to be right there and be there in that moment where that hand which moves in that little eyebrow which is raised, to observe that all the time. Less elements that distract you is much better for me. Less elements of distraction on the screen. They're not films that are very small. Jaime, from Temporada de Patos, duck season, they said that they're small crews, but the crew is a normal size crew, that is to say. It's the necessary size of crew which we believe is necessary for the film. And we filmed in 35 millimeters, so it's not very light. The crew is not a light. We didn't improvise too much, but once we stopped, put the camera down, we started to play and test things, and they gave us a clue or a dialogue and so on. So that's how we did things. It's very relaxed, I would say. Very serene. We didn't do things in a hurry. We didn't want to move from one place to another. If we were in a hurry, we didn't want it to show that we were in a hurry on the set. There's something that Fernando and I have known each other for many years, so the story, as he shapes it up and he started to think about it and he constructs it, I, as a producer, I also construct it in another way or a different way. For example, when dimensioning how many people are going to turn up, what size, what budget. So to a certain extent, and that's an advantage and a way of working that we've had since duck season, Temporada de Patos, that other film, because I think they converge. I think it has to respond to, it would be absurd, a story of this nature told with other types of filming mechanics, shall we say. This silence, the subtlety has to be based on a group of people that understand it and respect it. I think that's very important. And we spent a lot of time, Fernando and I, talking about how the set should be set up and who was going to be there. It's a pity that Maria Seco couldn't turn up, who's the director of photography. She just gave birth to a baby. So we liked very much, obviously, of her work. We liked her personality. I think her personality, which is not at all intrusive on the set and allows those types of scenes with Fernando working there, that subtlety, and to be very close without noises or distractions, because these are scenes that easily you could be distracted upon, especially if you're working with non-actors and so on. And I feel that you've got to be very careful in the entire environment and on set. Sorry, but Fernando's films seem much smaller than what they are. So therefore, and I think that to a certain extent invades every different department or everyone who collaborates or the whole piece. That is, when one sees the films, they think it's a film that's almost, well, that's the feeling I have. I don't know what you feel. That could have been made almost in a sigh, but it does have a level of complexity. It's not that small, the truth be said. You feel that it's small and it's something which is not, and that's a gigantic piece of work carried out by the crew. Yes, when I say small, I don't want you to mean pejoratively. No, all the contrary. I love films that are small. No. But simply, yeah, on the human issue, yes, but in turn, they are small, but there's a lot. These are pretty middle-sized crews. It's a film, it's a Mexican film, an average one. It's not one of a small type film, that there are many small films and many marvelous films as well. Yes, and we tried to have the resources for each different department involved. And something which is also important in the film And that's why we're all here. It's a pity that Maria's not here. We would have loved everybody to have turned up, but it's a film that we work as a crew, as a team, and with Jaime, who have known each other for many years, as I was saying, everyone has given their best. Eugenio, Maria Rene, Lucio, Andanay, and Christian. These are people that have got really involved in the film, and they have a voice there. They're not just people that are hired to do their job, but no, they've given their life experience to it. It's a 50-50 issue for me as a director. 50-50 in the script, 50-50 in the performances of the actors, 50-50 in the art director, and 50-50 with the director of photography. These have to be people that are accomplices, and we practice this during the audition. When you see everything, you've got to find accomplices. These are accomplices, and you've got to follow them. The director's got to, the path from the script all the way through to the final credits on the screen, you've got to be there. But the work is teamwork as a crew, and that's very beautiful. And you notice this, and on the set, for example, the people were very happy. They feel part of the film. Even Lucio was impressed because he was going, and it's like a family. Everybody's got a good wavelength, and everyone's cool. Yes, it's a relaxed. There's no screaming and a hurry up and do this, that, and the other. And the director's assistant as well. So therefore, we made the environment very good, and you can feel that on the screen. The rhythm, yes, and the smile, shall we say, that good feeling that you can see in the films. Any further questions? Yes, hi, good afternoon from Argentina. I'd like to know what's the path of the film. Is it already, that is to say, you've been in the Mar del Plata Film Festival with your film. I would like to know whether there's any possibility that you may go this year, or you don't know yet, or what's going to happen now with the film. That's what I'm getting at. It was premiered in Toronto 2 weeks ago. That was the world premiere, and now we're here in the competition section. Next week we're in the New York Film Festival. At the end of October, we'll be in Morelia in competition, and Morelia has become the biggest film festival in Mexico. So therefore, we've got an enormous amount of invitations to very large film festivals, and we're analyzing what to do. That's to say, Temporada de Patos and Lake Tahoe. They participated in about 100 film festivals, and we're doing the same thing with our sales agent to see what festivals that we want to attend to or not. It's a constant debate that has to do with the market side of things. That is, how much do you want to show in how many festivals and what festivals? That's got to do with sales as well, because if we're selling it in different territories, we don't necessarily in that territory, does the distributor want the film to be shown in a film festival? Or perhaps yes. Each case is completely different. So therefore, we are now setting up the program over the next few months and years. What was quite clear are the next 4 steps, and as of there, we'll see what happens. And as we accept film festivals, we will advise people of this, but I see that it has an enormous potential in festivals, just like the previous 2, and with every side, on the sales side and distribution in Mexico, which is an issue that we're discussing now with several candidates, and let's hope that the audience goes to see it, and we don't want it to just get stuck and be left in festivals. That's what we're working on now, but happily we will go to Mar del Plata if you invite us. Sorry, we can't hear it. There are programmers in Ventana Sur in the co-production forum, so we'll have to go there and see them. Yes, please go ahead. Let's go and get them. Any further questions? If that's not the case, thank you very much.
Gracias.